Aloha. It was good seeing you today. So, I'm going to erase some of this nonsense and do a quick recap. So when we're going through this, we were talking about different ways to view these. This is chordal analysis where we're able to use the notes inside the melody line and the key signature to tell what this is supposed to feel like and do a little bit of analyzation as if we're having all our leaps and bounds, our passing notes, and we have a flowing melody. First thing we do is take a look at the first note. First note on the bass clef here is the D, and because we're in the key of D, there really is no other notation besides just that D. The next note we have here is a passing note, and what I want to do is just say it's a minor second away from where it is. We're not going to talk about analyzation of the passing chord right now. We're just going to go right through this to the next note. Next note is going to be on the second line from the bottom, G, A, B. When we have the B, the thing that we see below here that gives me a little inspiration is this 7. So if we know that we've got a B right now, and that we've got a 7, what we need to do is see what the B is in the key of D. B, as you pointed out, is the 6. It's the minor 6. The 7's simply notating what's the minor 7th of the key of B. Quick reflash, there are 5 sharps in the key of B. B, when we go to C, it's a C minor. So we've got B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and then B. So our 7th would be A sharp. So our natural 7th, or our note here, would have that A located. Hence, the hyphen or the minus sign in the 7. The next note that we see happens to be a note above the middle, so the D goes to an E right there. That E, when we look downtown here, we find that in the key of D there is not an E major, there's an E minor. However, this one's asking us to sharpen the note onto which we are viewing. This is an E, so the idea of what we have here is that E note goes up here as our root. We have the notes that are going above it. When we see 7, we know that it's going to want to be a 7 chord of some type. Our third in the key of D would be an F sharp. Our second is an E minor, and then our D is our root as a 1. However, this isn't asking for that. They're asking for that the notation above there be shortened. Why do we know that? Well, this one's not talking about the third of the fifth, or the root of the fifth. It's talking about the third. The notation that we're seeing is saying to sharpen that G to a G sharp, thusly making this whole thing change in notation. Why? The G is the fifth, or the fourth. When we have that note go up, D, E, F sharp, G, we're seeing that these two notes correlate with each other. This E7 now takes the cake. It's the one we walk with. After that, we're seeing our notation jump down to the bottom space. We have G, A. This A right here, when we're in the key of D, has no marking, so that stays as it is. There's nothing here for us to kind of analyze or do. With this next note, we're going to walk it on up to the key of F line, but we're seeing that we have a sharp because D has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So we've got an F sharp. F sharp alone would let you think, oh, this is going to be a minor third. However, we see how that shows with the 6. So what we're going to want to do is throw this into our brain and say, when we want to see a first inversion, we're looking at a 6-5 chord, meaning how many notes away is that 6th note from the 1? Well, in the key of D, we've got the note on the staff, which is an F sharp. F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and then D. Well, that's 6 spaces, 6 intervals, 6 minor seconds there, 6 spacings. So our 6 stands to reason that when we have a D here, it's still going to be in the key of D. It says to go and have this as a 6. That's our first inversion, which means we simply need to put the inversion underneath it. That is the F sharp. That is the third. There we go. That's the major chord. That's the third of it. The next note we see on this staff, we're going to find ourselves right there on the C sharp. It's one of our other sharps. That C sharp is the same as this F sharp in the idea. However, I put the 6-5. Understandably so. The C sharp that you're seeing right here happens to be the root note. That's what we're seeing. C sharp, D, E, F, G, A. Boom. That's the note that we're looking for. When we find ourselves in the key of D, and we find ourselves in the key of, let's say A. The third is C sharp. Cool. I could put this as an A, but we're charismatically looking at it as a D. So what note is this? Well, it's a C sharp. So let's put that, C sharp. What is a third below it? If we go down, we would find ourselves doing C sharp here, B, and then A. When we drop this down here, we've got a first inversion, right? So that C sharp can't be on there, and I put my A all the way up there. Now my C sharp's on the bottom. C sharp, I have an E, and then because we've got a first inversion, it's just gonna show the note as being higher. That gives me the chordal analysis. And then lastly, the note we have on the middle line is a D, and there's nothing special about that. It just has its note D there. So all of these allow us to get from one point to another, look at individual notation, and then form from the key signature what type of chord it would have been in. And lo and behold, when you play these chords over the top of these movements, they make sense because the chords that you're using contain the melody line. I hope that made a little bit of sense. If it didn't, we'll go over this in further detail. This is one of two ways you can do chordal analysis in the beginning. It helps us to understand intervals, leaps, bounds, what our chord stacks are made of, and then how to view our 6 or our 6/5 as being an interval that switches. So we call those inversions. If we have a 6/5, it's the same as a 6. If we have a 4/3, we have an implied 6 over the top of that. 6/4/3, and then we would have a 6/4/2. What does 4/2 mean? Well, what is our dominant note or our minor 7th in the key of D? D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp would be our major 7th or our natural note. So our dominant 7th is a C natural. Hence, when we play something that has a C natural, C, C sharp, D, or a major 2nd or a minor 2nd gets you from your 7th to your 1. Hence, the 2, 4/3, 6/4/3, 6/4/2. There's a difference. One's a second inversion, one is a third inversion. The third inversion takes our triad, adds the 7th, whether it's, generally it's the minor 7th, right? But we don't necessarily have to use accidentals in a major key because the only time we would really need that is in a minor key, in a major key, to represent what that dominant 7th would be. I hope that's not too overwhelmingly too descriptive with words and it makes a little sense. And as I said, if not, we're gonna go over this a bunch of times. Aloha.